by Rob Mitchell here at Kuker-Ranken. I know I speak on behalf of Rob when I say thank you so much for joining us and going through all this information. We just love having these little snacks for you to give you all the details on some of the new products that we have available. So today we're going to be talking about the dynamic lock with the Leica AP20. And with that, let's go ahead and take it off. Rob, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Brady. Appreciate that. I like that term, snacks. I was going to say welcome everybody to the Kuker-Ranken Lunch and Learns. I was calling it snippets. Personally, I've done a couple lunch and learns on the AP20, which is the AutoPole 20, which is a tilt pole. Today, I'm going to talk more focus on the dynamic lock, and we'll show at the very end how that kind of incorporates into the AP20 and how I can use both, simultaneously. So today's topic is the dynamic lock on the Leica Geosystems robotic total stations. It's available on the MS60 multi-station 60 Leica instrument. It's also available now on the TS16. So it's new to the TS16s in the last year or so, and a very good addition to the tools available on these robotic total stations. Dynamic lock, this is a TS16 total station that you're seeing. It has the new versions of the TS16, the upgraded versions, has a few items that are new to it. One is the dynamic lock, which we'll look at a little more closely. There's also an auto height, which is basically an EDM measuring tool, very precise to get your automatic height of the instrument, which is critical to layout and construction and surveyors, of course. And then there's a shorter distance in the EDM that you can measure, 0.9 meters. So used to be, you had to be a certain distance away from the EDM, and it's a lot closer. So dynamic lock, what is it? It's basically a combination. Oh, sorry, I got one slide ahead of that. It's been in the MS60, the multi-station 60 since 2018. And like I mentioned, it's new to the TS16. And what it does, we'll talk about what the feature is and what it is included in it, but what some of the benefits of it is, on busy construction sites, it efficiently locates or locks onto your prism, the prism that you're working with, because for most sites, construction sites, mapping sites, when you're out surveying or laying out or doing data collection, even if it's engineering, aquatic work, things get in your way on the job site. Trees, construction sites, moving piles of rubble. There's constantly action on a construction site. There's constantly traffic on a street corner. There's cars moving, buses, there's people. So dynamic lock assists the surveyor or the person running the instrument to efficiently stay locked on or recover that lock in a faster time frame than has been around for quite some time with the robotic total station work. So on the right side, one of those links will be a PDF to the full data sheet, but it's if you see here, it is the spec sheet on the total station, and there is down here at the bottom of the total stations, you'll see power search, and then up above a couple lines, automatic target aiming ATR plus. And to get into what the dynamic lock is, it's basically a combination of those two events, those two tools that are available in the total station or robotic. This slide shows, what is dynamic lock? Well, before the introduction of it, you could lock onto it, but it was within the scope of your total station. So if you got the prism, if you could identify where that scope was looking within 1.5 degrees, it would lock onto that prism. But that's a really hard thing to do if you're a couple hundred feet away. But the ATR, or automatic target recognition component, achieves that. If you're in that scope, it will lock into the center of that prism. The next part is the power search, which we've had forever with the robotic total stations. By by forever, I mean, the last 25 years. And it basically, in the Leica system, it's a fan of that from that total station from the center of the scope, and it fans out, and as soon as it picks up or recognizes within that fan the prism, it picks it up, it centers on that, and then the ATR information is the next step, and it centers on that prism. So there's one or the other. The first part of it is the power search locates the prism, the ATR takes over, and it centers and identifies the center of that prism. So those two have always been around for a while in all our total stations. What occurred with dynamic lock is it combines the two of those processes. So essentially what you're looking at is, if you can't, this is not a split screen. This is actually that fan. Let me go back. This fan here of 20 degrees above where the scope is pointing and 20 degrees below is the fan. And then it's a vertical fan down the center of that scope. So this is that fan. And if you move, if you're dynamically or, in motion and you cross the path of that fan, the ATR takes over and locks in. So you don't have to be, traditionally, you have to be static. The fan has to find you first, and then it centers on the prism, which is a very efficient way. But now if you can imagine, and I'll show you a quick clip which shows you with these Zoom meetings, it's a lot easier to show a quick video of someone that's doing it, rather than me talking about it. It combines those two information, so you can dynamically be moving that prism and get locked much quicker than statically standing there while the instrument looks for you and then has the time to center. So with having said that, let's see if I can bounce into the front of it. I'm just going to show you a quick clip of what it says visually on kind of a cartoon mode, but you can see that's the fan coming around, and this is dynamic lock, and this gives you a good idea of what that fan is as it searches around. And then what I want to do before I talk about some of these resources available to us is, no, this might be a good time. Because it'll take us to this video here. So with Leica, there are resources available that identify, and they're very well produced documentation on some of these items. For example, they have a white paper on the ATR I kind of mentioned. This is the beginning of it. There's a white paper that'll be in your link as well. And if you want to really get into what is that ATR, or the automatic target recognition, you can, dive into a white paper about what that means and what it entails and the science of it. And Leica provides that all in a location called My World. And what they've come out with recently in My World is My Learning Center. And in the My Learning Center, they have these courses. And one of the courses is Introduction to the Leica Total Station, the new Leica Total Station. And the new TS16s that we're talking about here today includes a dynamic lock, and you can see some of the resources available. And all these learning centers are available to clients that have total stations, or if you want to learn more about it, just contact one of us. And you can see here, link to course video, how to use the dynamic lock MS60, well, TS16 or MS60. It's from 2018, but there's a video it takes you to, and it talks about how, with closed caption, with information about how to, what benefits you might be able to use if you haven't thought of things, and how you can use that pole, some of the benefits in the field, the feature itself, combining the ATR use as well as the power switch use. This obviously Captivate version, not obviously, but version 2.0 is a few years old, but it essentially working in the MS60 and now currently available in the TS16. There's that photo or that capture of in my PowerPoint, and it talks about, there's a good graphic, I guess, better than I can mention, how as you're moving, it picks you up. So now if you think about it, as you're working out, I'll let this go and talk. If you think about on a construction site, when you put that instrument, when you put that prism down, or a tractor hoe gets in the way, or you're out far enough that somebody, some sort of obstruction. Normally you would have to stop, statically sit, look at the prism, find it, and then maybe that takes a few seconds. But if you're saving a few seconds over the course of a day or a course of a week or a course of a project, there's such efficiencies and ease of use. That guy's just walked across the beam, and you can watch that instrument kind of dial in right on the focus without him slowing down or looking back. And then there's the Captivate software. So these tools are available. The resources are available. These courses are available in PDF, and they also talk about specifically a dynamic lock, which is one feature of that total station. As you walk around or through the trees, a heavy tree topo, you can utilize that dynamic lock more efficiently out in the field. So let's go to the next page. Okay, so these are I use this slide here and this combination of information down at the bottom on previous of my AP20 lunch and learn. And the reason I left it up is because the AP20 identified the use and the tool and the availability of that tilt prism pole. But imagine if you have the dynamic lock feature on a TS16 or an MS60 robotically, and you have that AP20 and you combine the two, the efficiency gained on both of those, with people using crews being one-person crews all the time, finding that prism, the processing speed of the total station is that much better. Each generation of processing power in the computer inside the instrument, the ability to recognize that prism and stay on that prism, the ability for the prism pole to be a smart tilt sensor prism pole. There's so many efficiencies, reduction of errors, cost savings, time savings, headache savings. All of this information, by the way, is in a database stored in that specific job, so that the tilt sensing information, if you want it to be repeatable and you want to identify where there might have been an error in the mapping or the field work, is available and can be processed in the Leica Infinity software, which would be another lunch and learn to talk about the features and the reporting that's available from the database that's gathered out in the field. So to me, as an old surveyor, these tools, as they become more available, as the ability for them to introduce them into the workflow of a standard crew, just improves the ability. Leica is always taking feedback. You can submit tickets to that My World webpage as well, as far as, if you're doing something every day, all day long, and one of the things that would make it more efficient is the ability to dynamically lock, for instance. They look at it and they look at it hard, and they generally are very good at applying those needs and making it, the product that much better. So I am impressed. The other thing about these lunch and learns that I wanted to mention, that when you sign up for a lunch and learn here, you pick a topic, and this dynamic lock was an interesting one to me, but I start geeking out. I start looking at, what is this dynamic lock about? What is the combination of the ATR plus and the power search? And I would start reading into the white paper. So you get not only, you look further into how you can, what it actually entails, but also then you start thinking about, okay, what are some of those benefits, and how it, maybe it is only 5 seconds or 3 seconds per loss of lock. But 3 or 5 seconds over the course of a year is, you're making money and being more efficient and utilizing a tool that is available now on those TS16s. So with that, I'm right at 20 or almost at 20 minutes, a minute close, which I'm very happy about, because sometimes you start thinking about these things and you go over. So 20 minutes is about our time. That's why I generally talk really fast, right? We all talk fast because there's a lot of information. And then we give a little bit of time for questions and answers. And Brady, maybe you I see you popped up there, so certainly.
I do have a question for you, Rob.
Yes.
What would be some of the advantages of using the AP20 with the prism versus just a standard prism using the dynamic lock? What types of advantages would we have using that type of a system?
Let's look at both. Really good question, Brady. Very good. So let's look at the dynamic lock and leave that alone. That's on the total station side, but on the rover side, you have the AP20, and I have it down there. So the AP20 with a 360, a normal 360 prism. Okay, so the prism hasn't changed. It's just that the AP20 is an IMU or a tilt sensor inside it. So it recognizes where your tilt is and the dynamics of the tilt, right? So you do not have to be typically plumbed up over a point. By plumbed up, I mean centered perfectly vertical to the center of the Earth, gravity. So the benefit of the dynamic lock is there's a benefit to that, which we talked about, but the benefit on the pole side is when you take a typical shot with a 360 prism and you're locked on and you don't have the AP20, you're not using the tilt sensor, you have to look down at that bubble and bubble up and center over the point. So however long that takes, if you're very good, sometimes you can be, a couple seconds. And sometimes the accuracy isn't that, necessary, that your bubble doesn't have to be centered over the bubble. So you can be a little bit quicker and that bubble will be floating around, but you have to be somewhat vertical in order to get an accurate location of where that point of the pole is going to be. With the AP20, if the AP20 is active and the tilt sensor is on, you put that point down, it is static or dynamic in a way that you can be moving that pole and getting just as accurate a location of the XYZ of the point on the ground moving as if you were sitting there bubbled up. So there are seconds on that side. Very good point, Brady, but seconds of efficiencies on that side and seconds of efficiency with the dynamic lock capability. So over time, both those combined, you can imagine that thing is, you're just going, right? You are just moving. You can't keep up fast enough with the use of those two. So it's
sure.
Yep.
And it sounds like it would be very efficient at getting, corners, like you said, trying to get everything plumbed up with your bubbles, trying to make sure you get it set up. Sometimes you don't have space to put your pole straight up and down.
Right.
So it sounds like that the AP20 would help assist in getting some of those extremely hard to reach areas without having to be, bubbled straight up and down and have so much clearance for all of your hardware.
Absolutely. You can social media has some of those that people that have the AP20. Some of our clients have that AP20, and a very common one is property corner. Usually they set that fence line over the property pin. They put if there's a wood stake next to the property pin, they tie their rope and string it down to the next property line. So essentially the property corner is under a fence and you cannot get that pole under there. You tilt it out and you get it. And there you go. That saves half an hour of work to get that information. So tons of use on the AP20. That the dynamic locks that is additional to that. So yeah, the AP20 is a fantastic use for construction and survey in the survey life for sure.
All right, Rob. Well, thank you so much. It doesn't look like we have any additional questions, but I want to say thank you, Rob, for coming in and showing us about the TS16 and the AP20 and kind of that dynamic lock. That's pretty impressive equipment, and we're extremely lucky to have specialists like yourself who are able to go through and help us understand those of us who don't use that type of equipment.
Yeah, thank you, though, Brady, too. Appreciate it.
So what we'll do just to finish up today. The next couple lunch learns that we have finishing us through the year. Next week, we have the basics of the MLID RS2 and the MLID Studio system. Just a high-level overview. On the 30th, we have Map Tech that will be presented with the new drone, and it's looking amazing. I can't wait to give more information up to you on that. Then we have in December the 7th 3DR classification tools. On the 14th, we've got the Animal, the quadrupedal robot that we've been taking around to a lot of our roadshow locations. So some of you may have seen that. Make sure to join in. And then finally on the 21st, we have intro for UAS and mapping. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us today. Really appreciate it. Hope you've got as much information as I did out of it. I think there's a lot there, so really appreciate it, Rob. And of course, if you have any additional questions, make sure to reach out to your Kuker-Ranken specialist. Thank you so much, and have a great day.